Hey, I'm Josh, host of the weekly Agent Zero community call here in Skool. This week we had a special guest, Magnus Müller, co-founder of Browser Use, an AI browser agent that empowers anyone to automate repetitive online tasks. We wanted to share that call with you here. And if you like what you see inside the Skool community, you'll find mini masterclasses being put together by our own members and all past community call recordings. And all of this is absolutely free. All you got to do is click the invite link in the description below and join us. We'd love to have you. All right, let's dive in. Welcome, everybody. We are recording. Man, is this our fifth? I'm already losing track. That's good.
I think so.
I think this is our fifth community call for Agent Zero. And what's today's date? August 20th. Welcome, everybody. Jan, I'm glad you're on time. It sounded like you got stuck in some traffic. Everything work out?
Yeah, ultimately it did.
Good. Yeah, you're here. We're great to have you. How's our special guest looking?
Hi, good morning.
He just came.
Oh,
Hello,
there he
Magnus.
is. There he is. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. I was like, wait a second. Magnus Müller, welcome.
Thank you
Nice
very
to
much
meet you.
for being here.
Yeah, it's super cool what you're building. It's an honor.
Yeah, are you in San Francisco now?
I'm in San Francisco, yeah.
So it's 7
just-
a.m. your
Yeah.
time?
Run along the beach. It was awesome. And now awesome community call.
Yeah, I just realized that it will be like 7 a.m. your time, so we might want to postpone these meetings at least 1 hour for the West
It's
Coast.
I had the same thought, but I was like, Magnus isn't a startup, man, and they're in San Francisco. They're probably up at 5 a.m. just on the keyboard.
So hello
Hopefully.
again, Magnus. Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah.
We're just doing a lot of cool stuff with the browser use inside Agent Zero, so it's great to have you here.
Yeah.
If there is anyone with anything urgent who would like to speak now or ask something before we start to chat about stuff and about browser use, etc., just raise your hand, guys, and you'll get the space.
Well, if you wouldn't mind, Jan, I'd kind of like to get some juices flowing with some like origin story with Magnus, if that's cool. And then we can kind of, I mean, dude, I tried looking up interviews with you guys. I could not find anything. I was like, where these guys are quiet.
Yeah, I noticed as well.
Gregor always posts on X. That's where he has a voice.
Okay.
But yeah,
That's awesome.
Web automation. I think I started around 10 years ago. A friend of mine, he designed 5,000 t-shirt designs. And my job was to upload them online. Bubble, Spreadshirt, merch by Amazon, so that we can sell those t-shirt designs online. And my job was to manually upload 5,000 t-shirt designs. And I'm very lazy. And so I started to record my mouse movement, to record those macros, which just replay what your mouse did. And one day I realized, oh, there's this thing called Python with Selenium, which can directly click in the browser. And I was, wow, you can write this and then click play and then transform. And I spent most likely much more time automating the things than it actually did at the end. And moved over time into ML research. And yeah, I was really fascinated. Studied cognitive science in northern Germany, which is like a mix between philosophy, psychology, linguistics, and AI, mathematics, which tries to come to like consciousness and intelligence from many different directions. And I was directly passionate about AI, super. And one day in my master in ETH in Zurich, I met McGregor, and we asked ourselves, how hard would it be to combine those two areas, like the AI space and the web automation space, so that you can just prompt an AI and it does automation for you. And we thought, for sure in the next year, OpenAI and Anthropic, they will build something in that space. But how hard could it be? How hard could it be? And we built like a very small prototype in 4 days, launched it to Hacker News, and from there it took off. And since then, yeah, we grew to one of the largest repos in the space of web agents.
Congratulations on that That is amazing, and I love to hear your passion behind it, especially with the mindset of, I think all of us here, I think that nugget of like, how hard could it be? Let's go for it. But then once you start hitting those roadblocks, are you sticking with it? Are you being consistent in the problem you're trying to solve? So you guys have definitely been an example of that.
Yeah. Yeah, but I would be also very interested how from Agent Zero, and yeah, what are kind of use cases you see, or when does the agent actually call the tool, and always open on what we can improve or what things we can easier, or especially for some people, speed matters a lot, and they want browser agents which are faster than humans. For others, it's only about reliability, and the browser agent could take like a week, but it needs to be 100% accurate. And for others, it's a mix, but the most important thing is that it's like almost free, that it doesn't cost anything. And so yeah, I would be kind of interested in the use cases we are saying. What's the most important thing there?
Yeah, we've been in touch for quite a while now. I remember you started your project, or maybe made your project public a few months after I made Agent Zero public. I remember it was the time when I was building a browser agent, and I was looking around and saw this new repository. You were like below 500 stars at that time, and I was looking at the code, and I was like, hey, this is really cool. Like it looks like 70% of my code, but like it does this better and this better. So maybe I can use this instead. And then I saw you're using LangChain models. So I realized that it might be even compatible. We could just like plug it into our framework and like use even our model settings and everything. And that's how it started. And yeah, right now we are experimenting with letting the user take over control over the browser. And I know you have this already in your hosting solution. So later I would like to ask a few details about that, because we are just figuring out how to make this persistent, and like how to run these browsers in the background, and letting browser users connect to them, and letting user take over them.
Okay, so for you it's important that it takes over and can start clicking, and then the agent continues again.
Yeah. A lot of people need this to solve CAPTCHAs, obviously, or other bot protections, and also some people want to like log into a website and let the agent continue from there, or doing something like this, like starting a task and then like letting the agent automate the rest.
Okay.
I know you have credentials management. We implemented that as well to the most recent version. So now we can share our like usernames and passwords safely with browser users without exposing them to LLMs on either side. So that's really cool. But still, people need to take over and click the CAPTCHA and like log in and do something.
Like a big problem for people. I was thinking about like a one-password integration where people can have their password or their two-factor authentication, and then the agent can use that available for the run. I'm not sure.
I think having this credentials store, like having like names and values stored safely, is the easiest way. I think like if you try to add another piece of software, it will complicate matters for a lot of people. I think the solution is good. I saw your implementation, and you are masking the password out as well. So that's really cool. We do the same. So like if the password appears on the website somewhere, it is not shown in the browser actually, or like it doesn't get back to the LLM with the data. But I think the solution is really cool and safe, and we just integrated it, and we are just like passing our dictionary of passwords into browser use, and it seems to work really well now.
Interesting.
I was clicking around the cloud service of yours, and I was testing taking over control over the browser, and it seems you're using some sort of VNC or something like that.
Yeah,
I thought so.
Yeah, that works kind of, or just the CDP URL that like you can access it. And I was thinking the last days a little bit about it. Like you could, for example, also have a Chrome extension where people type, and for example, yesterday we were, for example, in the Azure settings
Mm.
to add me to our Azure account so that I have our credit and can start new models inside Azure, okay, for cloud computing. And it took us together, I think, 45 minutes to add me there because I couldn't log in and so many things. And I think that would be awesome because those models, they're trained on those tutorials, right? So if you can just ask on the sidebar, hey, please help me, add my co-founder here, find the right setting. And then you could kind of, for example, post the CDP URL of the current browser session somewhere to a browser agent. And this browser agent can connect to your local running browser and then can start acting via the CDP. So the streaming of the browser is very interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's me or if it's your connection, but I think we're skipping some words.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
I think it's Magnus's connection.
Okay.
It's that San Francisco Wi-Fi.
That's weird.
Hey, we're getting a great turnout here. I think actually we get 17 people in the call right now. This is good.
While I figure out my microphone, can you tell me some of the most cases which you see on your web?
Sterling, do you want to?
Right now, I couldn't understand much.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
He's. I think Magnus was asking about use cases, right, Magnus?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, Sterling, you want to talk about the cybersecurity?
Sure. Hi, Magnus. The developers of Agent Zero have made the excellent choice of building the product on top of Kali Linux, which is one of the what is the premier cybersecurity pen testing Linux distribution. So it has hopefully we still have Magnus. His video's frozen. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you perfectly. I just figured out my microphone.
Okay, fantastic. So it already has, you know, all of the support for the best cybersecurity testing tools. And so I'm working on a solution, for example, that is driving browser use to do web application security testing. So it'll log into the website, it'll find vulnerabilities, it actually navigates the UI to get some of those. And so reliability is more important than speed in that case. But for example, we're currently pointing it at the OWASP Juice Shop, which is an intentionally vulnerable web application, has about, you know, several hundred vulnerabilities in it, and sort of driving through finding those and solving those challenges. Yeah, so anyways.
Okay, so you want to find vulnerability. Browser agents, what do they need to be capable of doing? Or do they just need to click and type on the website?
So at the moment, it seems to be fascinatingly, I've discovered that it works well even when not using an AI model that supports vision. I have no idea how you guys are doing that, but that's kind of amazing. So just being able to support vision and non-vision models makes a big difference, especially with the cost and the fact that for cybersecurity testing, sometimes using an obliterated model that doesn't have all the anti-hacking guardrails installed is actually really beneficial, and those don't always support vision. But I think I've only gotten so far into testing because I'm still developing, but so far browser use is working great the way it is. So I have no new additional feature requests for you.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you for developing it.
Yeah, that's super interesting what you're using it for.
So, you know, interestingly, in Agent Zero, I think Chromium is the default browser that it drives. For security hacking, I think most hackers use Firefox. But I've yet to kind of get around to messing with a lot of those. And there's a lot of reasons for that. You know, you can do a lot of client-side activities and kind of man in the middle proxy kind of stuff with a more functional browser like that.
Interesting. Yeah, currently we don't support Firefox at all, I think. So that's interesting because Playwright works, of course, with it, right? Last week we did a very big update in a recent version, where we got of Playwright, and we now only use CDP to interact with the browser because it caused many problems on our side. It decreased our stealth score a lot, so antibots, they detected us all the time because of Playwright. And there were many weird errors where we didn't have any control over. So now there was a trend over the last couple of months that we got more and more to the source of libraries where we have more and more control. Now we get some feedback on that. How's that working out? If users like that, or if they really rely on Playwright.
That's really cool. Is it already released? Is it a public
Yes.
version already?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So we can get rid of Playwright as well.
Yeah, and then your package size gets like half.
Yeah. Yes, we are currently testing running Chromium natively inside the Linux with a virtual driver, with a virtual display driver, and connecting with CDP to it directly from browser use. And then we want to add the VNC component so that the user would be able to take over the browser. And we would do it in a very similar fashion like you do it in your cloud service. We would like pause the agent and let the user do the clicking and then resume the agent.
Okay.
Yeah, just for your information, as Sterling was talking about the integration in Agent Zero, the way we integrate the browser use is like a subordinate agent. Agent Zero has the ability to spawn a new agent, like a copy of itself as a subordinate, and give it like a task. So if you tell the agent like do these 20 steps, it can break it down into 20 subordinate agents, and it can like delegate part of the task. This way the context window is separated between these two agents. Like the subordinate agent doesn't have all the information from the top level task, and the top level agent is not cluttered with all these intermediate steps. And so we have a tool for this to call subordinate agent, which creates a new instance. And we do the same with browser use. We have a tool called browser agent, which spawns a new browser use agent. So our agent like gives the introduction and all the information and instructions like a message. So it acts like a real user for the browser use agent. And then it collects the response and the screenshot, etc.
Interesting. And then you only take the final response and put the final response into your context.
We used some of the hooks to adjust the system prompt and to adjust the expected output. So our output looks like the title of the page, a brief description of the elements on the page, and then the final response to the task.
Okay.
So like the browser agent always like tells the superior agent like where it is, what it sees, and like what is the response to the task.
Interesting.
Magnus, have you spun up an instance of Agent Zero?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
We
Nice.
were talking a
Awesome.
lot about the memory management. You know, when an agent takes like 100 steps, what to keep in context and what to remove from context. And
Yeah.
Jan had some interesting summarization systems like 6 months ago, and we thought a lot. Okay, should we just cut it at one point? Should we use libraries like mem0 or Jan's summarization system? And we tried out many things, and we realized that many people, they only ask us for like 10 steps or 20 steps. And so currently it's still implemented that we just cut off after 40 steps. We just cut off the past and then just always keep the last 40 steps in context. And yeah, so far not very big problems, but it always impressed me a lot, like the systems which Jan built around, or also how much love he puts into the the prompting, and like, you know, if you look at the prompts of Manus or Anthropic or OpenAI, they're like 15,000 characters or 15,000 tokens with so many explanations. And Jan's system prompts is just like on a completely different scale. It's a completely different approach with like no grammar and so on. Doesn't those
Thank you.
rules which he identified by himself, playing around with it. I really appreciate that.
We played a lot with the prompts. I tested a lot of summarization systems for the memory. Originally, I did the same like you do. I like kept the original task, like the first user message, then the last like 20 messages, and cut off everything in between. But yeah, it also came with its own problems. Like it's okay if you have like 10 or 20 steps, it's okay. But sometimes when the agent gets rolling and it needs to do like 50, 60 steps, and there is a point which you can hit where the agent starts spinning in a loop, because like if you cut off, I don't know, like the step number 10, it may start doing step number 10 again after step number 30, because it doesn't see that in the history, and it thinks like, oh, I didn't do this yet, and it's in the instruction, so I need to fix it now. So like always, like it worked like 90% of the time, and like then you hit the point where the agent started spinning in a circle. So that's why I came with the summarization system, that instead of like deleting older messages, we summarize them so that the agent can see like, okay, this has already happened. I don't have much information about that, but I know it's happened.
Interesting. And this works well for you still? Or did you
Yeah,
find
actually, currently, I think it's the most robust and best working part of Agent Zero. Like, you know, it works well if you don't have to think about it, and you don't get any negative feedback, you don't get any bugs on GitHub, etc. I don't know. It just works. It's in the background. It just works. It doesn't slow the agent down, and every time I look in the context window, it looks nice and clean.
Well, okay.
Actually, I was kind of surprised that you can lower the threshold of the context window size into something like 10,000 tokens. Currently, our system prompt is something like 5,000 or 6,000 tokens. So there are only like 4,000 tokens left for the whole conversation history and everything. And it still works. Like after a few messages, it will start summarizing everything, but you can still ask it like, what did we talk about 2 hours ago? And it still works.
Interesting.
It's great if you pair it with some sort of like long-term memory. If the agent has some like summarized information about what has happened and can look up the rest in the long-term memory.
Interesting.
Magnus, I need to apologize. I did cut you off before you went on on something you were going to say, and then I diverted you to memory. I don't know what you wanted to discuss there, if you remember.
Maybe just more use cases from your side.
Right. Well, hey, yeah, if anybody wants to raise their hand, please do so, because I have one, but I'll wait. Here, yeah, go ahead, Stephen.
Hi. My use case for the browser is customer facing. So basically what I want to use the browser for is a tablet or a desktop, a screen that the agent controls so that it can display anything that is contextually relevant to the conversation that the agent is having. So it's kind of like a workaround for a shared desktop. And I'm curious if multiple sub-agents can support different browsers kind of at the same time too. I don't know if that's possible. But, you know, so you're having a conversation with an agent or a group of agents. They want to show you something. How are they going to do that? I want them to just basically broadcast a screen under their control. And it sounds maybe a little out there, but let's just step back for a moment and think about what kind of UI does AI need?
Mhm.
It means pretty much to be able to display anything at any time, anyway, right? There's very few things out there. Very few things out there except a browser can do that.
Interesting. So you want a browser and you want to put multiple agents inside, and then what's the yeah?
I want to have a video conference with agents, like we're doing right now. So let's suppose some of us here are agents, and they want to share, quote unquote, their desktop. In other words, they just want to share their browser, so that I can see what they're talking about.
Interesting.
And I think the days of talking heads are going away. That's what we have now. And for the humans, that's great. Like, we like that. But agents don't need it at all.
Interesting.
And I don't need to see some simulated head, lip syncing stuff. It doesn't really impart any information.
Yeah, that's it.
Right? I'd rather have a voiceover narrative of the content that I'm really interested in.
We are sometimes thinking, imagine a very smart model. What's the interface to this model? Will you talk to it? Will you type to it? Is it like a chatbot? Is it video? And of course, there are many, many different things. But what we thought in the very beginning is we could generate UI on the fly. So imagine right now you go to Google and every user has, if there come 1 million users, everyone has exactly the same UI, even though users are very different, right? And so maybe you can toggle light and dark mode, but that's it. Like,
I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, I think that is the UI of the future. It can do anything. And it's generated, most of it's generated, some of it's retrieved. And it just depends on the cost performance ratio, whether it's generated or retrieved or not. And you can generate images now for like 1/100th of a cent.
So you can like do this now,
So
like what
it's
you're talking about, you can do this now. Like Claude Code recently added some stuff that you can kind of generate UI with on the fly, and you can do this now. Like you can do it with AGUI, and you can do it with the MCP UI stuff. So it's definitely out there.
yeah. Yeah, so for example, Jan, when you, I don't know, need, for example, login credentials from users, you could just do a tool call where the model generates UI on the fly for username and password, and then directly embed that very nicely inside your UI, and it's only what's needed is asked for, and then they type it in, and then you can pass it down. Or,
Yeah, exactly.
For example, or form fill.
Yeah, that's that's
missing.
damn near possible now with AGUI.
Yeah, we did some experiments with AGUI, and AGUI is basically this. It has an interface for generating UIs on the fly by LLMs. Chadwick actually did some experimenting with it.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I've been using it in like another project I've worked on too. So like, it's all voice first. So like if I ask it to search my area for pediatricians or something, and I ask it to pull up a map, it'll pull up to like a Google map, like in the UI, and like plot the points and like, list the stuff along the side in the cards, like the different pediatricians and stuff. And I can tell like, hey, just generate like 5. If it puts like at 15, I'd say, hey, just give me 5. It'll take them out and put the 5, closest to me. It's pretty cool. You can, and I like even like onboarding stuff, like I have it set up to where like the person can talk to the AI, and it's like filling out their onboarding stuff like right like with them while they're talking.
And technically, if I remember correctly, it's like 2 parts. It's a set of tools for the agent where the agent generates like a JSON of the structure of the UI, and then there's the rendering part that turns it into a live HTML, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And like I said, there's a couple other like the MCP UI thing's fairly new. And again, Claude Code just released some stuff. So there's more of it coming out now, definitely. But the stuff that's out there is definitely very useful if you dig into it a little bit.
I haven't heard about MCP UI.
Yeah, it's fairly new. I believe too, if you're familiar with like Marimo notebooks, it's like Jupyter notebooks kind of. You can kind of do that in Marimo as well.
That's cool. Magnus, I wanted to ask something about MemZero. You have MemZero integrated, right, into browser use?
Not anymore. We don't use it anymore.
Not anymore. You discontinued it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
What MemZero?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What did you want to ask about MemZero?
I want to ask about the integration, like if you managed to do that seamlessly, because we tried to, and it was getting more complicated over time with new versions.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to see like your implementation be inspired by it.
One second.
Sounds like we could definitely learn from why you went away from it.
Can you hear me like this better?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. So they actually just come to our flat and integrated it. So we didn't have to do any integration. These MemZero guys, they just came over and did the integration themselves and created the PR. But I would say that your memory system is quite advanced, especially like for the chat, for the context window. Especially because you have entire control over it on your end. I don't think that they have any advantage for you there. Maybe for the long-term memory, I guess there could be. Yeah, but since we just cut and only put in the last 40 messages into the state, we didn't really need that at that point anymore.
And do you have any solution for the long-term memory now? I thought you used MemZero for the long-term memory, like in between sessions.
No, we only use MemZero for the context, not long-term memory. And we don't have any solution for long-term memory. So currently, they just put whatever they want into the prompt.
Okay. I thought that. Okay. So that's my mistake. I thought this is exactly what you were using MemZero for. We were considering using it for the long-term memory because, as far as I know, they also have some graph knowledge implemented.
Mhm.
So we thought we might make it a bit easier on us rather than reinventing the wheel using something that already exists. But
Yeah, I think
the integration seems harder than the implementation itself.
Exam, I think they are willing to just do a PR inside your project with the integration.
Okay. I know the original creator of MemZero contacted me on LinkedIn a while back.
Yeah, maybe you can ask him.
He'll be open to it.
Jan, what happened with the were you trying to integrate the Falcor DB knowledge graph with the FAST AI vector DB, and that didn't work out? Or
Raphael did a prototype of the integration. They only release their open source Falcor DB as a Docker container. So we couldn't use this because most users are not allowed to use Docker in Docker. So Raphael took a look inside their Docker container and extracted the parts needed. And he found out that it's like a plugin into Redis DB. So he installed Redis DB in our Docker container and added the plugin there and started it as a service. And it works. It works. So we are testing it, and it works as an additional layer to the memory. It's not completely integrated with the memory itself because the memory is stored in the vector DB as text and as vectors for the similarity search, and then there's the graph knowledge on top of it. So when the agent fetches something from the memory, it does the fetch from the memory like it does now, and then on top of that it gets some information like the result contains these entities and they are linked to these entities and these entities, so you might want to fetch these as well. So it doesn't automatically search the graph and do additional like searches in the memory, because like these turns they use LLMs and they would slow things down. And loading from the memory, especially like the automatic memory injection, that's a very time sensitive. It's critical point in the conversation, because the agent actually waits for the memory. So you send a message and the agent needs to wait for the memory. So like every second is very expensive at that point. It's something else when saving. Like when saving, we can do that in background and we have all the time we want. But when loading, we need to do it as fast as possible. So we have this implementation in testing. There's a PR in our GitHub for that. So anyone can try. Well, we are still deciding whether to include this.
What were from all those speed improvements which you did over the year? Like, what were some of the biggest learnings or tricks which you found out to improve the speed of the general conversation flow or agent?
I think what really helped is our extensions framework we created. We wanted to keep the project maintainable, so we didn't want to add more and more code inside. Like we didn't want to have like huge code files, etc. So we created something like lifecycle hooks, and in these hooks we call extensions, and we can have as many extensions as we want inside each hook. So like when the user sends a message and the agent's monologue starts, there's an extension point, and it looks for a folder on the disk and it calls all the Python scripts inside, so we can easily add and remove them. And like then when the system prompt is being built, there are multiple of these extension points. Then when calling the LLM, there are extension points before tool call, after tool call, etc. So here we can easily decide what do we want to do in the background and what do we want to do in the foreground and wait for it. So for example, when the user sends a message, like I send a message to agent 0, like, I don't know, find a vaccination for my dog in my neighborhood or something like that. And we start searching the memory right away. And in the meantime, we build the system prompt, we do some other preparations, like we start the agent context, we load the tools, etc. And then at the very end, just before calling the LLM, we wait for the task that was started at the beginning, and we inject it to the system prompt. So using this extension framework, we can split this into two parts. We can like call the memory and then wait for the memory at the end, and in between we do a lot of other stuff. So so this is what really helps with these points that are time critical. And also we clean up everything before we pass it to the LLM. Like we trim the results of tools, etc., and we compress everything in system prompt, because having a long context window also makes LLMs slower. It might not be directly noticeable when you use large language models cloud hosted. Like if you use ChatGPT, you will probably not notice a long context window versus short, except for the price. But you will really notice it when using local models with Orama. Like having 2,000 tokens in the context window versus 10,000 tokens, that's a really big difference.
One point on this speed versus cost trade-off, which we learned, is that our agent has like at every single step. You want to say something, Jan?
I nearly forgot. We use two models. That's probably the biggest thing. We use main chat model, and then we use a utility model. And we instruct the user to use cheap and fast model for utility, and use like a smart model for the chat. I don't know how I almost forgot to say this. This is definitely the biggest thing, like that we use a small and fast model to prepare prompt for the memory, to clean up the memory, and do all this stuff in the background.
Okay, so what's the best setup? Like what's the main model for chat, and what's the best utility model?
I usually use a combination of something like GPT 4.1 and GPT 4.1 mini or nano, or a combination of like Gemini Pro and Gemini Pro Lite or Gemini Lite, and they even have the one that's Gemini.
It's like flashlight.
Yeah, Flashlight.
Yeah, flashlight.
That's an awesome name.
Okay, interesting. And there, do you see major speed differences between Mini and 4.1?
Yeah. You can really notice it when it generates a longer text, like when it does a memory consolidation or something like that, where it generates like a full page of text. There's a big difference.
Okay.
And especially there's a big difference if you use something like the Gemini Flashlight.
Okay.
That's a really fast model.
Recently, we had many problems with timeouts with 4.1 Mini, that like in 1% of the cases, generation is not done after like 3 seconds, but takes like much longer than a couple of minutes. And so on that, there's this parameter frequency penalty, with which you can set how likely it is that it generates the same word over and over again. And if you increase that, then you kind of discourage the model from just generating random spaces after each other, which sometimes went on forever when it got into this loop. That kind of fixed it for us.
And GPT does this? I haven't seen this in a while. I know it used to be a problem with some models, especially local models, that it generated like 2 paragraphs of English text, and then it created like 1 Chinese character or something, and then it started speaking Chinese forever.
No, it's not the Chinese character. It's more, it generates 200 tokens, and it's done. It only needs to do a bracket, but it just starts to write tab. Okay.
Yeah.
And it writes tab.
Yeah, like once it starts, it doesn't finish. Yeah, that was the same problem.
And so, yeah, but basically on this trade-off between cost and speed, how to optimize both. But one thing which we learned is that in terms of speed, the main thing which matters is the output size. Like how many tokens does the model need to generate? Because for example, Mini, okay, they generate 100 tokens per second. Okay, that means if you have an output structure of 100 tokens versus 200 tokens, is like 1 second versus 2 seconds.
Yeah, definitely.
This is like the main part. So if you want to optimize,
actually, for this reason, I started with XML format for the output, and I had to turn back to JSON. That was one of the earlier versions. I had to turn back to JSON because most models, including something like Claude 3, they were just failing to produce a valid XML output. They were like repeating tool calls, like 5 tool calls in a single message, etc. They did never stop. But since JSON structure is fixed and is more static, then it stopped.
Okay.
I think what would help you a lot is actually really using 2 models. Like it can be optional, like you can have a main and utility model. If the utility model is not specified, you can use the main model for both. But for I don't know how many of these like secondary tasks you do inside. Like if you do any like data cleanup or preparation using AI, this can be probably offloaded to the Lite model.
Yeah, we have that option internally. Like it's mainly for page extraction. So we have one tool call where the model says, okay, extract me content from this page. Extract me all the links from this page. And then we pass the entire markdown of the page and pass this to the utility model to only do the extraction of the current content, and then pass this back to the main agent. And there the parameters are called page extraction LLM. But yeah, we should definitely promote this more.
Also, what would help you here is not letting the model like rewrite the content, but like enumerate the lines or enumerate the elements, and let the model just return an array of these numbers.
That's interesting.
It's like the chain of draft prompting. It's kind of like the chain of draft prompting stuff, if you've read about that.
So that it doesn't directly say what, but it basically just says, oh, give me this line, this line, this line.
Yeah, well, we do this with the memory cleanup, where we need it to be fast. So we fetch like 10 memories or 20 memories from the vector database, and some of them are irrelevant. Some of them might be like similar in wording or something, but they are irrelevant for the context. So we use the utility model to clean it up, and we enumerate them, and we give it to the model. and tell you, like, here are 20 memories, like return a JSON array of numbers which are relevant for this context. And it only generates like 10, 15 tokens just with the numbers.
That's interesting. That's super fast. What we were thinking sometimes about on the output structure, right? Of course, you want it as cheap and fast as possible, so as little as possible. But we also realized if you give it first some tokens to express itself or to think, we call it like thinking or evaluation previous goal or next goal, then you give basically the model some time to produce some tokens. And this is like if you think yourself about the problem for like 1 minute, and then you produce your final output. Most often the accuracy is much higher if you just, and this concept is quite interesting, to give the model space to reason or space to think about. And this is basically just some tokens.
We do the
Is this
same
like
with
a-
Agent Zero.
Is this like is it like a preamble type thing or a primer?
No, this is basically part of the output structure. So our
Okay,
output
okay.
model looks like thinking and then next action.
Yeah, we have exactly the same.
Of course, you could
We-
just do next action and you would be extremely fast and cheap. But if you do thinking, then the model, can just reason.
We do this with the main model. We use chain of thought there. We instruct the model to do a few lines of thinking beforehand, and it really helps. It really helps because it very often like goes over the memories that are injected into the system prompt. We inject the long-term memories at the end of the system prompt, and you can very often see in the thinking field that it talks about the memories. Like there are some memories on this topic, but they are not relevant. I'm skipping them or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, we use this as well. With reasoning models, it's kind of a double work because it does the reasoning and then it does the thinking in the output. But it really helps for chat models.
And the second point, so this was about speed, and the first point about cost. One thing which we realized there, which is quite interesting, normally cost is more driven by output tokens because output tokens cost like 4 times more than input tokens. But for browser agents, we have 10,000 input tokens and let's say 100 output tokens. Even if output tokens cost 4 times more, then the ratio is still 10,000 versus 400. So the output tokens are almost like less than 5% of the actual cost. So if someone wants to optimize, then they focus on those big tokens which go into the model.
I think it's not only browser models, browser agents. I think it's agents in general. It's the same for Agent Zero because Agent Zero on average generates, I don't know, something maybe like 1,000 tokens per output. And the system prompt alone is 6,000 tokens. So like even if it's the very start of the conversation, it's still like 6 to 1. And very quickly it gets to something like 30 to 1, 50 to 100 to 1. So I think input tokens are way more important for any agentic workflow. And you can find models, or at least previously it was the case that you could find models that were very cheap on input and expensive on output, and these were actually cheaper to be used in agentic workflows. I remember it was something like GPT 3.5 generation. They had the GPT 3.5 standard, and then they have GPT 3.5 instruct or something like that. And instruct was used in agentic workflows, so they bumped the price of input tokens, probably just to make more money. So you had two models that were basically the same. One of them was more willing to follow instructions, so it was used in agentic workflows. So they increased the price of the input tokens like 3 times.
Interesting. So right now you sometimes produce 1,000 output tokens.
I think so. I think because it generates the thinking, so that will probably be like 100 or 200 tokens. Then the tool call, if it Agent Zero most often writes its own code, so there will probably be like 500 or 600 tokens for the code, maybe something like 50 or 100 tokens for the JSON structure.
What kind of code does it normally write?
Any code. It can use the terminal or Python or Node.js, so it can write and execute basically any code on the fly. So it depends on the task. Like if you tell it to, I don't know, what I do sometimes is like I need to download an audio track from a video from YouTube. So it does one tool call to install the libraries, and then another tool call to download the video, and that's probably like I don't know, maybe 100 output tokens in total, or with the thinking maybe like 200 or 300 output tokens in total. But yeah, it generates like thousands of input tokens.
So basically, it can download YouTube videos by just generating the code for it.
Yep, yeah. Using the Linux terminal, it downloads the library and uses it to download the video.
Okay.
I don't know, Joshua. Was there any question in the chat? I saw some pop up here.
Yeah, Stephen asked, I wanted to share that choreography between agents can buy time for computation, that we can look at a session like a show and use a showrunner to prioritize inputs and outputs, and you can use multiple models. That's what he wanted to share. You guys were on a roll, so I didn't want anybody interrupting, because this is great to have two founders of these frameworks going back and forth for the audience. And I'll just say real quickly my use case. So as a user, actually, Magnus, I churned. So sorry, I did churn on browser use when you guys first launched your cloud version, but I paid that first month, and I'm not a developer. I'm a regular guy. And so I just couldn't figure it out. And I don't have any developers on staff. So I ended up churning, sorry. But I was an initial customer because of the technology. And so it's an awesome space that you guys are in, and the work you're doing is great. I guess real quick, my use case is like a simple one, a simple marketing agency that helps customers with their CRMs and does SEO work, paid ads work. And so getting these agents to learn the platforms and where I'm doing this work to help like offload some of the tasks would be a huge help to this one-man operation. So I just saw like GoMega.ai, they launched, and they're launching an SEO and a paid ads agent. SEO Bot is another agent in the space that I just became aware of. Nathan Lochta of I forget where, he has a YouTube channel, and he does awesome interviews with a ton of founders, SaaS founders and whatnot. But yeah, I guess just to put it simply, there's nothing new in the work that I'm doing. And so if there's any tasks that I could offload to AI agents to accurately, I would say I desire accuracy over speed for customer work, just like Sterling was talking about. But yeah, that's my stuff.
Interesting. Okay. And basically, it should take over your CRM, and then you prompt to create a new marketing campaign for my customer A, and goes, clicks, and then I guess needs to go to other social media platforms to then launch those campaigns for you.
Well, if you want to hear my wildest idea, I'll say it. So I'm a reseller of a platform called Go High Level, which is now they just surpassed HubSpot for being the #1 marketing automation platform for small businesses in the United States. And so they continue to grow. It's because their business model is generous to agencies like mine. You can pay $300 a month and resell unlimited accounts that are actually helpful to small businesses. So that business model is working for them. They have an official MCP. It only has 25 endpoints out of the 250 plus right now, but there are others who have put together the full-on MCP with all endpoints. My crazy idea is building a CRM consultant agent that would go in and analyze essentially the contacts, the communication, the cadence, basically monitor like the health of the overall CRM and give recommendations back to that business owner that would increase their bottom line. And so if we could get into the CRM, do that analysis, and then give them that report, and not only that, but the MCP allows for the creation and the modification of their internal setup. that can like just click yes on the recommended changes and then use the MCP to make those changes, update their campaigns, update their copy, do a little, whatever it was. It's more complex. I'm making it sound way easier than it is, but that's the crazy idea.
Interesting. So analyze for one customer their health. Okay.
Yeah. By the way, Magnus, my thoughts on the accuracy versus speed. I have two use cases I use, browser use in Agent 04. One is it periodically checks my heating system as I have a wood boiler, and it checks for anomalies, extreme temperatures, low temperatures. It tells me when to go there. So that's one use case where I need reliability over speed because it happens in the background and I don't look at it. So I don't care about the speed. I just need to do it like every 10 minutes or so. And then there's the other use case when I actually tell the agent, like, go somewhere and do something, and I'm sitting at the screen looking at it, and that's where I want it to be fast. So maybe you can implement both modes, like have two system prompts, or maybe like have two procedures to go through. Like one being fast when the user needs something that he might want to take over the browser, or he might want to have it fast, like a research or something. Like you imagine you're writing homework or something and you need some information and you need your agent to go fetch it now so you can continue. Or then you do a long-term project and you just need some data fetched, and if it's an hour or 2 hours, it doesn't matter. So maybe you can have two modes and let the user switch, or maybe let the AI switch on its own.
Interesting.
Yeah, I will say with the cybersecurity example I was talking about earlier, there, Agent Zero is spawning, upwards of 100 different concurrent activities, all of which could be driving browser use, and so in those scenarios, and they're all just using browser use to try and find like some discrete vulnerability. So in those scenarios, speed is also very advantageous. So just piling on to what Jan said.
Interesting. I guess long term we have just both maxed out, right? Speed and reliability. And one tricky part is right now often the waiting, to know how long to wait until to get the browser state and take action. Because sometimes
we had to solve exactly the same with terminal. Like when you run a terminal command and the Linux starts generating output, you don't know when it's finished, and like the terminal itself doesn't tell you when it's finished. So you can check for the prompt containing the username, etc., and the current folder, or we detect potential dialogues, like if it contains like y/n, then we wait like 5 more seconds and then like give the control back to the agent. Yeah, we had to solve a lot of stuff like this. And we have like in between output timeouts, and then we have different timeouts for the complete process of the terminal. Yeah, when it's human-like, you have to deal with human-like things like waiting.
Mm-hmm. With the agents from OpenAI, I was super impressed because I felt like when I used it last time in the chat that they constantly take like screenshot, pass it to I guess very small model, and the small model just predicts, are we done, are we not done? And so often it would generate, okay, I still need to wait longer, and then 3 seconds later, now we are ready, and it starts clicking and typing, and that felt very human-like.
Yeah, it is, because like that's what you do, right? You look at the screen, and if the page isn't responding, you reload it.
Yeah, and sometimes you need to refresh so that it loads. Because the page just doesn't work.
Well, everybody, we are at the top of the hour, and I just wanted to give it to Jan and Magnus, to you two. Any final words? I actually selfishly want to ask Magnus, what do you think Agent Zero can do to spread to the masses? Jan's doing an excellent job. You guys have done a fantastic job. So do you have any inputs on that?
I think for some of the biggest growth boosters were when Operator came out, and then we starting to frame ourselves, we are the free which you can use without paying $200 per month. And then later DeepSeek came out, and everyone was super hyped about DeepSeek. And then we said, okay, now we can use DeepSeek together with browser use to have like a DeepSeek-like operator. And those real-world hypes which went off, we often kind of attached us to them a little bit. That definitely gave a lot of growth. Together with, I would say, some controversial examples. Like, for example, in the very beginning, I did a job application agent who can apply for jobs. In the beginning, no one cared about, but suddenly 1 month later, many people started to repost this example and said, oh, now AI can apply for jobs. And then many said, oh, we shouldn't do that. And this sparked a discussion, which then, yeah, hit off.
Yeah, you need to ride the wave.
Yeah, I don't know. For example, you could do an example where you remove the done function from the agent, the finished function, and then you just let it go, and you, I don't know, run an experiment. What happens if you let an agent run for, I don't know, for 1 day? What does it come up with if it cannot finish?
Yeah, like if you just improve your operating system.
Yeah, it will start creating its own operating system. I don't know. Would be interesting.
Man, well, this has been awesome. Magnus, thank you for joining us. And Jan, thank you for everything you're doing for the community. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I appreciate you guys giving more time to these two guys to basically go back and forth. This is going to be hosted in the community. Yeah, let's get those emojis going on the screen. I love it. Yeah, I'll host this. I'm definitely going to put the chat log in there. I'll put the transcript so you guys can take that and you guys can analyze it with your favorite AIs. And yeah, thank you all for your time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you very
thank
much.
Here.
Thank you, Magnus.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Magnus. Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you all.
Bye.